Hey guys, Luke here. In today's video, we're going to cover 3 more tips for kite flying on the beach. So if you're a beginner, you're new to flying your kite, this is just 3 simple little skills that you can practice, basically to improve your comfort level flying the kite. And these are really basic tips, very simple skills, but you know, if you haven't had a lesson or you had a lesson a long time ago, this is just a little refresher for getting used to flying the kite and things you can practice on the beach. So of course, if you're a beginner and you're trying to learn how to kite surf, try and find a nice open clear area without too much traffic, without too many other people. Make sure you've got a safe sort of environment. That's always going to be best when you're learning, okay? But that being said, we've got a nice little space right now and we're just going to go through these 3 skills that you can practice. So the first one is rest and release, and basically it's just slowly bringing your kite down to the edge of the wind window like you were going to land it to someone, or where you're launching it from. Just nice and easy. Just see if you can really control that nice slow descent, and then when it rests on the sand, just let go of the bar. Okay? And you can see the kite will actually just settle into its position here. The kites are really beautifully tuned these days. They're very good at flying themselves and just relaxing. And so the kite will sit there on the sand on its wingtip, just basically waiting for user input for us to pilot it back up. And so this is just, it's good to know to be able to do on the land, and it's also good to know to be able to do in the water, because you could be sitting in the water right now and the kite could do the same thing, where it just sort of bumps around on the wingtip there. And the reason it's sort of even jumping around at all today is the fact that it's quite gusty, so the wind's ranging a lot. But you can see even in gusty conditions, the kite does really just sit there and wait for you to fly it back up. Some reasons you might want to do this. For me, I might come in because I need to tighten up my harness, for instance. This is a really good place you can put the kite while you do that. Frees up your hands. You can be pretty confident that the kite's just going to rest there. Maybe I need to wax my board, maybe you're having a conversation with somebody. So just a couple of ideas, maybe this, for why you might do this. And again, if you're in the water, you're trying to tighten one of your foot straps on your twin tip or something like that, you can bring it all the way down to either 9 or 3. Basically just sit it down on the water's edge, and then you can do what you need to do and then fly it back up. Which brings us to tip number 2. So tip number 2 is very gentle leader line flying. When people are beginning to learn how to fly the kite, sometimes they're very aggressive in what they do with the bar. 2 hands on the bar, and they do a lot of this stuff, right? And you can see the kite really doesn't like to react to that. It's very aggressive, more aggressive than it needs to be. And so tip number 2, we just let it rest back down there on the sand again. Tip number 2 is simply just flying the kite back up with one hand using one of the leader lines. So leader line is this area here on the line, and then just letting go of the bar again. So very gently just steering the kite up, and you can see up she comes. Now, why that's important is that a lot of people, like I just sort of demonstrated, are really aggressive in that flying, and then the kite does really aggressive things. Whereas if you're very gentle with that launch, and again, this could be a water relaunch, this could just be, maybe you've crashed the kite on the sand, maybe somebody's even holding it there. You don't need to be sheeted all the way in and cranking it up and then boom, off you go, Right? And you get this burst of power that you weren't ready for. Maybe there's a gust or something like that. Instead, just very, very gentle with that leader line. We'll just demonstrate it again. And you can have one hand on the bar, but I actually prefer just to reach forward with one hand. This could be on either side, of course, and just gently steer that up. Up she comes, grab the bar, take control of the kite like that. So that's another nice little skill just to practice your very gentle flying. The kites are really good at flying. It's normally user error, right? It's normally the pilot that creates all of the problems. The kites are pretty good. And so just being that gentle with the leader line, it's a good thing to develop as well. Tip number 3 for today is actually in light winds, and probably got a little more wind than I need to demonstrate this today. But sometimes if you're flying the kite and you feel like it's really running out of power, so what we might do is we might just depower this a lot so we can really experience it. So the kite's running out of power, and what happens is people start backing away from the kite, trying to keep it in the air. Okay? And what that does, while it does help a little bit, it's not actually the direction that is, will give you the most control over the kite. The most control over a kite that feels light or that it's dropping out of the sky is to head directly upwind. So not away from the kite, but point up into the wind and then head up there. So if we lose the kite power like this again, you head upwind, and the kite you'll be able to regain a lot more control of the kite a lot faster. So that's just a simple little tip, just from what I observe on the beach a lot. People have a tendency, because they're just trying to get that little bit extra power, and they start walking backwards away from the kite. That doesn't really help. Just take a few steps up into the wind, so directly up into the wind, and you'll regain control over your kite a lot faster. Okay, thanks guys, that's another 3 tips for kite flying on the beach. Hope it was helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.